Hello, teacher. This morning we are going to talk about the communicative approach. Definition. Communicative language learning is an approach to teaching a foreign language that focuses on learning interaction, either as a means of or as the ultimate goal or learning a target language. Approach. Theory of language. Linguistic theory is concerned primarily with an ideal speaker-listener in a completely homogeneous speech community. There are 7 basic functions that language performs for children learning their first language. The instrumental, the regulatory, the interactional, the personal, the heuristic, the imaginative, the representational function. Design. Objectives. There are 5 levels of objectives: an interrogative and content level, a linguistic and instrumental level, an affective level of interpersonal relationship and conduct, a level of individual learning needs, a general educational level of extra-linguistic goals.
Types of learning and teaching activities. It is only made. The exercise must allow to achieve the communicative objectives of the study plan, involvement in communication, and require the use of communicative process, such as the exchange of information, the organization of meaning and interaction. Classroom activities designed focus on complete tasks that are mediated by language or involve information, negotiation, and information exchange. Later could distinguish between functional communication activities and social interaction activities as the main ones. The first tasks, such as having students compare sets of images and note similarities and differences. The second, they include sessions such as conversation and discussion. The learner's roles. According to Green and Cowling, the learner's role is a negotiator between oneself, the learning process, and the learning objective. Involvement, you must contribute as much as you earn and therefore learn independently. They bring present current ideas, and the teaching and learning shall be interaction with each other instead of with the teacher. They must learn to see the failed communication in their point, responsibility, and not the fault of the speaker or the listener. The teacher roles facilitate the communication process between all participants and the various activities and texts. Act as an independent participant, resources organizer, and as resources itself, guide, researcher, and apprenticing, contribute appropriate knowledge and skills, actual and observed experience. Takes responsibility for determining and responding to the student language needs. Counselor seeks the maximum, the combination of the speaker's intent, the listener's interpretation through the use, paraphrasing, confirmation, and feedback. At the end of the group's activities, the teacher conducts the activity reports, points out alternatives and extensions, and helps in self-correction.
Okay, the role of instructional materials. A wide variety of materials have been used to support communicative approach to language teaching. CLT view materials as a way of influence the quality of classroom interaction and language use. The primary role of material is to promote communicative language use. Here, there are 3 kinds of materials currently used in CLT. The first is text-based, the second is task-based, and finally, realia. Okay, so the text-based, there are numerous textbooks designed to direct and support CLT. And task-based materials, a variety of games, role-plays, simulations, and task-based. Communication activities have been prepared to support CLT classes, and they are in the form of exercise, activity cards, and interaction booklets. And finally, in realia, many proponents of CLT have advocate the use of authentic from life materials in class. This includes signs, advertisements, newspaper, pictures, and symbols. Advantages and disadvantages. Here we have some advantages of CLT. The first is communicative approach is much more people-oriented because it is based on people's needs and interests. The second is communicative approach seeks to personalize and localize language and adapt it to interests of peoples. Mindful language is always more easily retained by learners. Six, to use authentic resources, and that is more interesting and motivating for children. And finally, children acquire grammar rules as a necessary to speak, so it's more proficient and efficient. Disadvantages. One of them is pays insufficient attention to the context in which teaching and learning take place. Another disadvantage is that the CLT approach focuses on fluency but no accuracy. The approach doesn't focus on error reduction, but instead creates a situation where learners are left using their own device to solve their communication problems. And procedure. The methodological procedure reflects a sequence of activities represents as follows. Pre-communicative activities. Here we have structural activities and quasi-communicative activities. And the second is communicative activities. Here we have functional communication activities and social interaction activities.
Okay. Conclusion. This approach appeals to those seeking a more humanistic approach to teaching, one in which interactive communication process were given priority. The CLT has gone through a number of different phases as its proponents have sought to apply its principles to different dimensions of the teacher learning process. The CLT features address very general aspects of language learning and teaching that are now largely as self-evident and axiomatic throughout the profession. That's all. Thank you.